He didn't just get a $90 million budget.
No,
He earned a
no.
90 million. He earned that. And for them not to give it to him with his track record would be blatant. So are you a capitalist or are you a racist?
Experience Karen Hunter in a completely different way. Karen Hunter is awesome. The podcast.
If you like me on SiriusXM Urban View Channel 126, you're going to love me. And Karen Hunter is awesome. Hey, this is Karen Hunter, host of The Karen Hunter Show on SiriusXM's Urban View. Karen Hunter is Awesome is an actual podcast to bring heat and energy and knowledge and power. A 1-2 punch that I don't think you get anyplace else. Tell the truth. So check out the podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, you will not be disappointed. These are those times, though, Kevin, and I didn't, somebody said, I've never experienced this in my lifetime. And I said, but didn't you kind of see it coming? Didn't you kind of know it was happening? Like, you can smell the air when it's going to rain.
Yeah.
You know the rumblings, you know, when there's something, you know something was coming, and this has been actually overdue. I expected this to happen the first time. And then when they didn't lock him up, for, you know, after being convicted 34 times, after having all of these other, he had like 90 something indictments when our Justice Department refused to make this impossible for him to come back. I knew he was coming back. And when our Congress failed, there's a lot of, when I'm looking around, I was like, people just don't know how to stop the hate. They don't know how to do it. So there's a lot of performance. But not a lot of, you know, and let me just say this, you know, as somebody that also has Without Sanctuary behind my back, that I always put it over my shoulder, even if it's not in frame, because I'm reminded that people took their children to watch people get lynched.
That's right.
Tortured before they were lynched, body parts cut off. They sent out postcards with people's body parts. This was part of the American culture, you know. So I went back to see Sinners yesterday, and because I gave away tickets on the air. Oh, wow. And shout out to Dr. Watts, who showed up, and Dr. Robbins showed up. And today, 4 more people are going to go see Sinners, because I bought tickets erroneously on Monday, and I wasn't going to get a refund. I'd rather give them away to people who haven't seen the movie and want to. But and I wanted to go see it in 70 millimeter, but I didn't do the IMAX. I was confused, but it was 70 millimeters. But it wasn't the IMAX, which was weird because the theater that I saw it in was actually grander in New Jersey. But the 70 millimeters, the crisp colors, I mean, you can see what he did with it. I didn't need it. I'm not a filmophile. You know, I'm not somebody that's into the quality of the film. I'm more into the storytelling. And watching it again, Kevin, what I focused on was cotton fields this time. The cotton fields, I really leaned in to the bare feet in the cotton fields, and I leaned in to the train station and the whites only, and it's a passing moment, but you know, the brilliance of this man Ryan Coogler's vision was to center us in a story where in the 1930s, the brutality in this country against Black bodies, I mean, we talk about Emmett Till, but there's so many unnamed, unmarked, there's so many people in the bottom of the Tallahatchie River that names will never know because they might have not jumped off the curb quick enough. Like the boldness of Smoke and Stack to come back from Chicago into this place. And what I think Stack said, I'd rather deal with the devil I know. Yeah. I'd rather deal with the devil I know. So that's why we came back, because Chicago's just Mississippi with tall buildings. He said, instead of the cotton fields, you got tall buildings. It's the same thing. So I was thinking about, I sat in that yesterday because we're here. And many of us don't even know. Our parents, you know, my mom is a child of the South. Your mom's a child of the South. They don't talk much about the thing because it was just who they, you know, had to be. And they didn't know they didn't know the liberation you and I have. So this is even more difficult for a lot of people because we're not conditioned to bow. We're not conditioned to accept the things that are happening. We're not conditioned to just be like okay with it, but there's going to be a price for that, fighting back.
We are of the generation that was supposed to have benefited from all the struggles that our parents and grandparents and great grandparents went through. You know, we definitely were the first generation to go to schools and taught things. We didn't see the signs that my mother, your mother, others saw for colors only, for whites only. And I think that's why a lot of people are freaking out. And I've always said, hey, we're just a generation removed from all of this. I don't have any memories of the 60s, barely. I'm sure you don't as well, either. But it's just like, what we do know is that there was possibilities that existed and got created. When I think about Stevie's Songs in the Key of Life, that was 1976. And by the time you get to 76, you got a whole bunch of Black folks on TV, the Jeffersons, Good Times, all kinds of shows, all kinds of movies happening, whether there was Black exploitation or not. But by the time we get to the early 80s, it was already beginning to be, like you said, this wasn't new. It was already beginning to be this attack on things. I mean, I literally, as I've said on the show before, went down south to do voter registration, re-registration work. We were getting knocked off the rolls in the 80s. So this is not some new phenomenon. I wake up today, I read the news every day. I prepare myself mentally, I pray, I meditate, I do what I got to do. Then I start digesting the news throughout the day. And you just see all the attacks. I got an alert from someone from Jersey, actually, from Montclair State in Jersey, right there, pleading with people to reach out to their representatives because they're going to cut TRIO programs. Those are the kind of programs that made it possible for many of us to go to college. EOF, for me, as you know, Educational Opportunity Fund there in Jersey. And I wouldn't exist if it wasn't for all those folks who sacrificed, the civil rights folks, not the famous ones, the folks that people don't even think about, like you said, who just did simple things to try to move the needle a little bit. And it's not like historically Black folks haven't asked for much, Karen. We've said this. Can we have the right to vote unobtrusively? Can we not have to step off the sidewalk? Can we actually look people in the eyes? Can we be human beings? It's not like we're asking for much. It's no different than what any immigrant group has asked for back then and now. Can we be treated as human beings? And I think that's what's hurtful because you see it coming from every angle. And it seems to be this purposely, it's like this, the sickness of it is there's this collecting of rappers and Black ball players that's been happening, and the bragging about the fact that a certain amount of Black folks endorsed this person to be president last year. But the most vicious things they're doing seem to be targeting Black people, across the board. I mean, to go into the Smithsonian Museum and try to and take things out of there, the African American Museum, it's just, I mean, it's horrific. We don't want this ideology in here. What ideology are we talking about? This country belongs to all of us. It's like, I was just with an indigenous brother the day before we did the Stevie Wonder party. We were in Oregon with the film, and this indigenous brother who's brilliant was just laying out, his journey across the plain states, Montana, et cetera. And it hurt my heart because I said to him, you know what? I have barely in my lifetime met any indigenous people who are scholars like you are, because I barely meet any indigenous people. You know what I mean? And it's just,
Yeah.
we don't want to address that, and it's not about blaming or anything like that, but it's like, we're not going to heal as a country if we're not really willing to have honest truths. And what they're doing is saying, we don't want to have honest truth. We want to erase things.
Right.
We want to get rid of
Right.
things.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I'm nothing. This is their
Yeah.
cry. I'm
Yeah.
nothing. I feel like nothing. And the only way I can be something is to stand on you, is to
Yeah.
erase you. And
Yeah.
what does that say? Toni Morrison would say, what are you? Without your
What
race,
are
are you
you?
any good? Are you any good? With your little self. 866-801-8255. I mentioned I saw Sinners Again on 70 millimeters in New York. And the other thing that I walked away with, and I don't know how you feel about this, but there's the scene where Smoke goes into town to get, and there's two things. I might bring this up on Thursday with the little girl, teaching her how to negotiate value and worth, her time, her worth. You know how to tell time? Okay. Money talks, you got to talk the language of money, and I was like, that was so, and there were several moments with the plantation where Annie's taking money that's not really money. And it's plantation money, because
That's
the
right.
diabolical system not only had you sharecropping, which you could never get ahead, but then would pay you in fake money that you couldn't spend anywhere but at a plantation store, which I thought was wild. And then Annie, when Smoke was like, "Why are you taking that money?" She said, "I don't plan on leaving here. These are my people." It's like I'm negotiating with what I have, with the people that I love, for the things that I
That's
want.
right.
And I have
That's right.
what she's saying is, I have everything right here in
Yeah.
community. And that was, to me, a centering that is a message for us, how we move forward. The other thing was this, the Asian, Grace, and her husband. Now, their relationship with us, while it seemed, and we've gotten in anesthetized or lulled into this false sense that people in our community are of our community, people in our community are for the community. No, it's transactional for them. Grace said, we didn't come here for all of this. We didn't come here for this. We came here for the transaction. We didn't come here. We ain't trying to really be down to fight. And that's what I got from it. We didn't come here for this. We came here because the money is good. But you're not really for our liberation. You're not willing to fight for our liberation, which is actually yours as well. But as long as there's a transaction and I can, be in your community, I can be cool with you. I may not hate you. I'm not calling you the N-word, but I'm not willing to fight for you. And the last thing I want to, and I'm probably not going to talk about it again unless people want to. Smoke goes in the store. He negotiates with the little girl. Okay, watch my truck. And then he comes out. The girl beeps the horn. He comes out. He does not ask any questions, Kevin Powell. Does not ask any questions. I feel like too often we get into a place where we need to know, well, why are you doing this? What is it? If someone's taking something from you, you ain't got to ask questions. You know what I'm saying? It's clear. And then he hit the dude and was like, why'd you do that? So you don't go and tell people that you almost got away with taking from me. Like I that energy resonated. I've been accused, Kevin Powell, of, doing that exact thing, not with bullets, but with words. And it's like, you don't need all day to know whether somebody is here, honestly, whether they're here in community, whether they're here to be a part of something, or whether they're here to troll or to take or to steal or to disrupt. Doesn't take all day. And I'm zero tolerant with it. And that's my form of shooting first. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like more of us need to sit in that. Like, you already know who's not with you. You don't have to ask, well, why would you do that to me? Well, why is it, all of this negotiating your humanity? You are human. You are enough. You are valid. You belong here. And if somebody is deigning to take any bit of that away from you, they don't deserve any of your grace in that moment. I'm gonna say it like that. But I feel like this is where we need to be, unapologetically with that. And you're gonna catch these verbal bullets every day. Come at your peril. Go and then run tell that. Go run tell that, and don't come back. Don't come back. If you come back, you better come hat in hand a little differently. Kevin Powell
It's interesting. There was and has always been various communities inside of the Black community, as you know. I think one of the things that struck me about the scene you're describing is if I don't know how many people caught it, but there's the store that's Asian owned. There's also a store that's Jewish owned.
Yes, the Rosenthal. Was it? I didn't catch it the first time. The Rosenthal store. Yes.
So I kind of interpreted it differently. Like, here's these groups that are marginalized: Black folks, Chinese Americans, and Jewish Americans, and they're in this space together, just trying to navigate. And yes, part of it is transactional, but I also think part of it is reminding us of this history. I mean, I think I may have said it on this show before. In South Carolina, where my family's from, there's a Jewish-owned funeral home that goes back almost probably 100 years. Was the only group of people who would actually bury my family members, which is why we have used them all these years, including my last couple of relatives who have passed. And I remember having a conversation with the Jewish brother. I said, "Sir, what's your background?" And he hesitated at first, and then he admitted, because I said, "Man, I'm from New York, so I already know." I'm New York, New Jersey. I said, "Are you Jewish?" He said, "Yes." And he said, "But I'm also Christian," because that was his cover. That's their historic, because think about it, Jewish in some of these communities that are being depicted in Ryan Coogler's centers. I mean, you can't do this. And so I think there's a bunch of things happening. I mean, is it transactional? Yes, but I also think that these are the spaces that we're allowed to be in. And I think that was part of the point that Ryan Coogler was trying to make. And I also think he's talking about, because when you think about it, that's 1932, the film is happening. By the time we get to the 60s, you see Asian Black coalitions that happening. Malcolm X was very close with an Asian woman, Japanese woman named Yuri Kochiyama.
Yeah, I talk about her all the time. But Kochiyama, yes. But she was right there. Could have caught a bullet.
Exactly.
That's my point. She wasn't transactional in that relationship. I'm not saying we don't let people in. I'm not saying, but I think, like John Brown, you need to pledge your allegiance to our liberation, our collective humanity. It can't just be you coming in and making money. And if you care that much about my freedom, then you help me build my own funeral home in my community, because you know how valuable it is. Nobody could come in your community and build and have you go to them to bury your people. Help me build my own, or show me how. If you care that much, I'm saying that there's, to me, Kevin, very specific things. And because for the last maybe 50 years, we have allowed there to be, as long as you don't call me out my name and you treat me like you respect me, here, come on in, take my music, take my, oh yes, you can manage me. No, you can't manage me. No, you shouldn't be taking points off of my talent. You shouldn't be earning money for the rest. I'm going to tell you my first book deal. I'm sharing this with you. I got a lawyer because I didn't know, from somebody, and I'm not going to give details because y'all know, actually he's kind of famous. The first book I did was LL Cool J's I Make My Own Rules. It was one of the worst deals that I've ever, actually the second the second one, Ladies First, was even worse, right? So I remember I was at a dinner party or something, and the lawyer showed up and he was like, oh, hey, Karen, blah, blah, blah. I sent my daughter to college on that contract.
Wow.
He made more money than I did. He didn't have to stay. LL Cool J, 20-something-year-old, 23, 24-year-old. I'm waiting around in Queens. I'm hanging out with his grandma. The work in that man, all he did, and I brought the man to the table. Like, you didn't even bring LL to me. I brought him to you. Do you know what I'm saying? Because of his manager, I made the connection with the publishing house. You didn't even do that. And I got to work for hire. And I'll never forget when he said he sent his daughter to college on a book that I basically orchestrated and wrote. It was in that moment I was like, wow, this man he got points forever. I don't even have royalties on that book. And that book sold like 300. Wow. So you know how many copies. It's one of the best selling to this day rap books. And I'm sitting there like, I'll never see another dime. I got to work for hire with some bonuses, which I earned out. But, you think about that. Didn't give me any insight into, like, you should, this is something I tell all of my people. You should have a company so you're not paying taxes. Didn't give me any insight into anything. Spent 10, 15 minutes in a room, and for the rest of his life is making money. So I'm saying, if you care about my liberation, really, and it's not transactional, then you teach me how to fish. And if you're not willing to teach me how to fish, then you go set up shop someplace else. We'll figure it out collectively. I figure we'll have enough information. It's not just don't let them in. It's not just don't invite them in. But it's also, for us, because we have been, imbued with this inferiority complex, baked into the system of enslavement, right? You got to feel less than. I'm going to teach you that you're less than, so that the next generation will accept this brutality, because you're not worthy of anything else. But if that's the case, then it's like, please just like me. And we got to stop caring about whether they like you or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Even now, people are like, I do a good job. They don't give a damn if you do a good job. You will still get fired if on that line item sheet, it's cut this amount and your name happens to be it. They don't care that you show up every day early and leave late, that you do the job of 3 people. They don't care. And, I'm nice to everybody. I show up. I go to all of the parties. We have been bending ourselves into pretzels to be accepted. And that should never be on the table. The negotiation, no. We got value, obviously.
Absolutely. I think that Brian was simply painting a picture of a community and reminding people that this is what existed in the community. I think that I agree with what you're saying, but I think those are the projects that we also need to take on, whether it's in book form or film form. This is what real allyship with coalition building looks like. There's plenty of examples of it in history, real life stuff. Like you said, Yuri Kochiyama. There's certain folks like Howard Zinn, Jewish brother, who,
that's right,
I feel wrote one of the most incredible history books ever. And he got the experiences from being at Spelman College as a professor, Black Women's College. And so there's plenty of examples of what you're talking about. And I think we need more stories. I think also what happens, because there's only one, whenever something like Black Panther Sinners comes along, we're so thirsty, and my wife was and I were talking about this last night. There's such a dearth of stories for us, and there's so many stories that need to be told. And I'm a part of so many Black filmmaker groups, partly because of this film I've been working on for 6 years. I'm like, this is ridiculous, the amount of stuff that doesn't even get told. I'm not talking about famous people or anything like that, but just like this came out of Ryan Coogler's imagination because his family's from the South, and he heard the stories, and he saw the African belief systems, and he weaves all these different things in there. But he's one of the few that even gets greenlit to do something like this, which speaks back to what you're talking about. Look at this system. If you really care about me, what are you doing to make sure that more Ryan Cooglers actually exist as opposed to yay for him and that's it? That's part of the problem.
Well, let me pause you there though, because
Hmm.
they didn't give him anything. Ryan Coogler, Fruitville Station prophet,
Yeah, yeah.
Black Panther prophet, Black Panther record prophet, Wakanda
Hmm.
Forever prophet, Creed prophet,
Yeah.
international, broke barriers there, right? So this is the other thing. If we're going to be transactional,
Hmm.
then we also have to play Ryan Coogler under the radar, just quietly, and then now he has his baby project, the one
Yeah.
that he can't give to them, so he takes it
Yep.
out and he shops it, and
Yep.
then he goes to the people that are going to give him the deal that he wants. He in that movie, he's showing how to negotiate. This is what
That's
how much
right.
time. No, you don't just take that first offer, you come back. So he learned,
Hmm.
talk to different people, gathered his crew. He's got a crew that he rocks with. So there's also
Yeah.
some negotiating there. Here's who I'm bringing to the table. And I believe that, there are points even within the crew that he has assembled that folk
Absolutely.
ain't gonna mess with him. Took his wife as a producer, so he's taking care of his
Yeah.
legacy. His children are involved in the, like, I'm looking at how he has put, and to me, this is, yes, he may have done all that, but I took away, this is the blueprint. I took it away the first time, but I'm like certain now
Yeah.
that, but so it also means that there's a work that you have to put in at a
There's some
level.
work you have to
Yes, you
put
got a
in.
90 million. He didn't just get a $90 million budget.
No,
He earned a
no.
90 million. He earned that. And for them not to give it to him with his track record would be blatant. So are you a capitalist or are you a racist? Because if you're a capitalist, we can work with that, because that's supply and
Mm.
demand all day. That's in and out. It's merit. It's some things. It's you making money off of things, and I'm exchanging. Are you a capitalist or a racist? That should be the question. And I think in this instance, Ryan Coogler was able to capitalize off of the very system. But before him, it was Ray Charles. We already know. You talked about Stevie Wonder. There have been people, Sam
Mhm.
Cooke. There have been people, Otis Redding, who've understood the system and were able to operate within it. Now, I don't know if Sam and Otis got because they knew too much, and we know we
Well,
know the story of Ray Charles. But at this point now, there are too many of us. There are too many of us that know enough that this should never be a situation again.
no, 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 no. And I think that the thing that I would add to the Ryan Coogler piece is that he is rooted in community. I mean, you look at who his parents were or are, the community comes out, he understands this is bigger than him. Make your bag, get your bag. And no one's denying that we should earn a living at what we love, what we're passionate about. Absolutely do that. But he also has this piece that I have to create things that are for this community because this community needs it very desperately. Look at the conversations. I mean, we're now in week 3 of this film, and the conversations have not dwindled down at all about this film. And as you said, people like yourself have seen it 2, 3 times already and have been searching it. IMAX, they brought it back for a week for IMAX
Mm-hmm.
screenings, all sold out, all sold out.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
instantly. We were trying to get tickets for New York and LA, couldn't get it. We are like, wow, this is some sort of phenomenon, but it's definitely a blueprint. And it reminds me a lot of, years ago, I interviewed Melvin Van Peebles when I was at Bob Magazine. He laid out the blueprint that he did with Sweetback and all the stuff he did on Broadway, et cetera. You really have to, part of it has to be do it yourself. You have to say, you know what, I'm going to do it no matter what anyone says. And even if people say it's not doable, you have to approach it that way, and you will win all over time. It's going to, as you said, Karen, you have to put the work in. But that's the history of us. It could be Booker T building Tuskegee. It could be Mary McLeod Bethune building Bethune-Cookman College. I mean, there's so many examples of us saying we have to make it happen no matter what, and then watch it benefit and flower, and then hopefully inspire people. Because I mean, so many people are inspired by this. I know I am as a filmmaker, which is why we own our film and we're very clear strategically about all the pieces of the film because we're like, there's no way we're just going to give this away for a streaming deal. It's instantly. People have come at us with all kinds of stuff. Like, nah, after 6 years of working on this film, we think we can do better than this. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Because we know
That's
we
right.
can. You know what I
Because
mean? So I agree with you.
when we
Yeah.
free us, we free
A whole bunch of people.
When we free us. 866-801.
Experience Karen Hunter in a completely different way. Karen Hunter is awesome. The podcast.
If you like me on SiriusXM Urban View Channel 126, you're going to love me. And Karen Hunter is awesome. Hey, this is Karen Hunter, host of The Karen Hunter Show on SiriusXM's Urban View. Karen Hunter is Awesome is an actual podcast to bring heat and energy and knowledge and power. A 1-2 punch that I don't think you get anyplace else. Tell the truth. So check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast. You will not be disappointed.